they're protecting the criminals and not protecting the actual ones that needs to be protected.
An Army officer says a squatter moved into her DeKalb County home while she was serving on active duty. And she only found out when a real estate agent was making final preparations to sell the house.
Welcome back, you guys. I wanted to talk about this topic because we have a problem in the U.S. Right now, there's about maybe 5 million squatters. They're saying squatting is illegal, but they offer protections for squatters.
Channel 2 consumer investigator Justin Gray is here. And Justin, that's when they found out someone else had moved in.
Well, Linda, they already had a buyer. The house was under contract. But last week, a convicted criminal moved his things into the home, claiming he had a valid lease.
He's not a tenant. He's a squatter.
There are beware of dog signs in some windows, cardboard covering others. A car in the driveway of Lieutenant Colonel Delia DeRay's Ellenwood home in DeKalb County, where someone she's never met moved in without her knowledge or permission and won't leave.
I felt violated. Had I not been serving my country, I would have been in my home.
DeRay is full-time active duty command staff with the Army Reserves stationed in Chicago. She was renting her DeKalb County home, but after a $35,000 renovation, put it up for sale.
I got a cash offer. It was under contract.
And that's when she says this man, Vincent Simon, apparently moved in, claiming this was his lease, that he'd paid $19,000 up front for 6 months.
The police called the number that's on the lease. It doesn't exist.
DeRay went to police, who told her it was a civil matter. This week, she served Simon with eviction papers, but he has a right to respond and have the case heard by a judge.
I can't ask them to leave. I can't put them out.
Vincent Simon has a long criminal history, including convictions for guns, drugs, and theft charges. DeRay saw him moving giant safes into the house. Mr. Simon, it's Justin Gray with Channel 2. We went multiple times to the home to try to talk to Simon. Are you squatting in the home, Vincent, or did you rent it fair and square? DeRay says the sale of the home appears to be off. All she can do now is wait for the eviction process to play out.
I want to go shoot out the windows, turn off the water, cut wires, but I can't because there's a law called self-help. That's a crime. I'm a law-abiding citizen, so I can't do that.
Both DeKalb County Police and an official private process server served Simon with those eviction papers. He now gets 7 days to respond and can request a trial before a judge. So this process, it could take weeks or maybe even months, Justin.
If I was this lady, I guess I would have to break the law on this because literally you have a house, you've been gone serving your country, you come back and you have somebody, you're trying to sell your house, but you have somebody in there and they're saying it's unlawful for you to remove them because there's such thing as a squatter's rights. And put it in the chat. Do you think since we have all these immigrants that's coming over, they don't have any resources or places to stay? Where do you think they're going to stay at? They're going to find some building, some house that's vacant, and they probably be squatting there because there's a such thing called squatters' rights. I wanted to share with you this article that I found. So Sacramento, California, imagine moving into a home and realizing someone is already living there. That's what happened to the Hodge family after they battled Sacramento's competitive real estate market and finally got the keys to their newly renovated home in South Sacramento. Unfortunately, their situation with squatters is not uncommon. Squatters will find homes that are empty and they will move into it. Tenant and landlord attorney Calvin Clements said, according to Redfin, investment buyers bought 56% more homes in Sacramento in 2021 than in 2020, creating a lot of empty residents. Because of that, people shopping for home or looking to rent should be aware of squatters. We went after it, up our bid and everything, and we got it. So After they purchased their home, they pinched all their monies together and they were outbid a number of times before finally able to write their name on the dotted line as homeowners. But after leaving the house empty for 2 weeks as they prepared to move from Daly City, they walked into a new home and found oranges on the floor and smelled burning plastic. And they was like, oh, somebody must be in the house. They called Sacramento police and waited out in front. As they stood on the sidewalk, they could see the figure standing in the doorway of their new home, just staring at us from the house. And all he did was just close the door. And I'm just like, what's going on? They estimated that there were at least 5 squatters in the home for around a week. In this article, he was saying that they might see a for rent sign or for sale sign, or simply pursue or peruse ads looking for foreclosure auctions. Clements, he noted that he had one recently that took over a year to get the individuals out of the home. Just imagine you bought a house or you own a house. And maybe it's your vacation home or what have you, but it's empty and somebody will just come in and move in. They actually will produce a lease to you and say, no, I actually rented this place. So it's this fake lease that they rented it from. So the guy said in the doorway, he was like, I have my own rights. I could stay in this house. The cop was just not having it with him. It's a common claim squatters make. The occupants may claim they live there. They may have phony lease. They show, and at a point it becomes the officers will call it a silver problem, meaning you, the landlord, need to handle it yourself. So the cops can't do nothing. They're like, oh, he has a lease. It might not be your signature or your name on a lease, but this is a silver problem. This is not no trespassing or anything like that. It's your problem. You need to take care of it in silver court. And the biggest problem around that, biggest problem when you have documents saying, oh, I have a lease to such and such property, the biggest problem around that is if you're in the court system, it takes you a long time to evict people. Detroit is like that. A lot of these urban cities. And then on top of that, you are wasting money and resources trying to get this person out, and you might not have it. Because all because squatters have rights and they produce this fake lease. Squatters' rights. Let's talk about squatters' rights. Where did squatting came from? Squatting came from the California gold rush. And that's why I tied it into immigration, you guys. Squatting came from the California gold rush. This is Wikipedia. You might not like it, but that's what site I'm using. Historically, squatting occurred in the United States during the California gold rush and when colonial European settlers established land rights. There was squatting during the Great Depression in Hooversville and also during the World War II. Shanty towns returned to the U.S. after the Great Recession. And in 2010, there were an increasing number of people occupying foreclosed homes using fraudulent documents. In some cases, a squatter may be able to obtain ownership of a property through adverse possession. Now, what they're speaking of, it varies from state by state. If someone takes over your property and they've been paying taxes for a certain amount of time, they've been paying the water bill, the electric bill, mainly the water bill because this is tied to your property and your taxes. Certain amount of time. The lowest I saw was like 5 years, like in California. They could adverse take over your property saying, hey, I've been paying property taxes on this property for 5 years and no one's ever evicted me. No one's ever had a dispute. So this is my property. And the court will rule in their favor. So that's basically where it came from. And that's why I'm saying immigration. Immigration, once they become aware of squatters' rights, we might have a squatter problem not only with legal residents of the United States, but illegal residents of the United States. What are squatters' rights? Squatters' rights refer to the laws that allow a squatter to use or inhabit another person's property in the event that the lawful owner does not evict or take action against the squatter. Typically, squatters' rights laws only apply if the individual has been illegitimately occupying the space for a specific period of time. In New York, for example, squatters can be awarded adverse possession under the state law if they've been living in the property for more than 10 years. It's important to know, however, that each state has its own laws surrounding this topic. This means that how squatting is approached and dealt with varies greatly depending on where it occurs. So it all depends on where you at. Montana's 5 years. I think California 5 years. The rest, you got to be there for like 10, 15 years, to adverse possession, as they call it. Then, when you try to call the police, like they said in the article, oh, this is a civil matter. They have a lease.
But squatters beat them to it. And now the group is refusing to leave the 5-bedroom home. The couple's realtor confronted the strangers occupying the home and tells Fox they were refusing to budge.
It's just a nightmare. They came up with some type of printed out lease saying that the previous owner gave them that permission, and it was just so far-fetched from the truth. The listing agent informed them that they were trespassing. It was illegal for them to be there, and the officers should have moved them at that time. They're protecting the criminals and not protecting the actual ones that need to be protected.
All right, we're going to do a very quick round here. Emily, the law.
The sticky part about this is that generally speaking, squatters fall under civil law rather than criminal, unless it's trespassing, which she brought up. However, you have to prove a lot of things before they can be evicted in that way. It is messy, it is expensive, and in places like California, if the squatter has any evidence of an oral agreement that they were supposed to live there in exchange for work, they are straight up protected by tenants' rights. So the bottom line
They said
is
they had a written agreement.
Spend your money in the outset. Get an alarm, keep the lights on, get a Doberman, put a foul smell around there, whatever you need to do to keep people out, because it will cost you thousands of dollars to prove that those people should never have been there in the first place.
Foul smell. Okay, the little deer strips.
Yeah.
Brian.
I am not for the squatters. I'm going to come out desperately against it.
Solid
I don't know where
position.
these people get their integrity, but I see this so often. People that buy rentals, they buy houses to rent. It's an investment. They always have problems with the tenants, let alone when you buy a house and squatters go in and they refuse to leave. I don't know where these people are from or who raises them either, but to go in there and live a life knowing that at any moment a cop's going to come in or an irate owner's going to come in with a gun or a weapon and end this thing right there. It's unbelievable that this happens. I don't advocate that, but who knows what's going to happen when you cut into someone's livelihood.
Leslie.
Yeah. My husband's Indian, and his family's from Hyderabad, India, and his grandfather's home there. We wanted to sell it, and we went in, and there were hundreds of squatters, and we ended up having to sell the home for pennies on the dollar because nobody would buy it, just to get rid of the house and to get rid of the squatters. And when I saw this story, the first thing I thought is, when did we become a third world country? I mean, we're not a third world nation, obviously, but this is happening in Maryland, in the United States. It's crazy, and I'm glad you shared the laws because I didn't know what they were.
The laws are antiquated. That's why they are the way they are, because they stem from the past where it's adverse possession. You got a piece of property, you build a home overnight, all of a sudden it's yours. So it's because the laws are so old, but that's why legislators need to change it. To your point, it's too much of a pattern. It's sweeping the country. It's an epidemic, and it's not okay.
Yeah, so squatting is an epidemic. We have laws to protect squatters. They don't protect you as the homeowner. So squatters' rights is to stop vigilantism from taking stuff into your home own hands. There have been accounts where people were shot and killed for squatting. So at the beginning of the video, her being a military veteran or an active duty serviceman, I don't know. I probably would have took matters into my own hands, because I can't imagine someone's claiming your property and you paid for it. I just can't imagine that. But we have people out there. So that was it for our video. Let me know in the comment section what you think. I am sending all my good to you. I will talk to you soon.